differences is normal. We're all different because we are unique. And it's not so much to put differences aside, but to sit with those differences and see, yes, you are different from me, but we have something in common. We have a shared humanity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dirty Linen. My name is Dani Valent. You might be listening to me for the very first time. If you are, I am a Melbourne-based food journalist. I was just saying to our guest, Elaine Pratley, that I make sense of everything I do by putting it under one umbrella, and that is leading people to great food experiences. Freelance life can mean many different things, but I can make sense of it like that. And I feel like today's conversation with Elaine Pratley, Dr Elaine Pratley, she has a PhD in peace and conflict, among many other qualifications. I feel like this conversation is going to lead people to great food experiences, but also great ideas about what food can do. It is not just about nourishment and sustenance. It is multidimensional, and I look forward to digging into that today with Elaine and talking about her new project, Peace Kitchen. Elaine, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hi, Dani.
How do you describe to people what you do?
Similar to you, I put it under the banner of I help people and organizations learn to approach conflict positively. So that might be under different ways, but yeah, essentially that's how I describe it.
So maybe let's start to try to understand that by talking about an event of yours that I was lucky to attend recently, and that was called Peace Kitchen. We were in a restaurant in Melbourne called Yum Sing House. It was a gathering as part of Asian Heritage Week, but it was a diverse crowd in the room. And you brought people there for Peace Kitchen. I didn't really know what I was going to, but I knew that the idea, the feeling appealed. Tell me about it from your perspective.
Yeah, basically, I am a foodie like yourself, and but I'm also a peace builder, and we can talk a bit about that later. But I wanted to create a safe space for people to have meaningful conversation over food, so that they could perhaps create a deeper connection. Because I feel that not many spaces nowadays in our world where we can meet people who are different from us. We go to schools that are close to us with similar socioeconomic backgrounds. We can choose to go to a public hospital or a private hospital. We can drive and not take the public transport. So there are not many spaces where we meet people who are different, who might disagree with our worldview. And so we don't develop the skills to listen and to develop the skills for tolerance and to learn how to understand a different point of view. So I wanted to create a safe space for that. Also, a comfortable and fun space. It's not a lecture, but just to have conversation with someone else.
Yeah, well, it was a really encouraging concept. So tell me what happened at the dinner.
Well, people came, much like yourself, they didn't know what they were going to expect. And they came and a lot of them came by themselves and sat with people they've never met before. And we were taken through a few courses of food that I would describe as Pan-Asian. And we had a discussion throughout the evening about identity, culture, and belonging. And so I used the concept of food. So we started with what we were eating, but went further to talk about authenticity of identity, belonging, but using food and the dishes that we were eating as a platform to have those deeper conversations.
I found it a really warm and safe space to have some of these conversations. And I feel like, this was dipping a toe in. We weren't touching on topics that were necessarily controversial or really, trying to create world peace in one go. but we did make some attempts towards finding connection. And I think, the questions that you posed for us to discuss it over different courses were along the lines of, talk about a moment when food has been, has promoted connection, think about the culture, what food culture means to you or what food culture you bring with you. And there were some really beautiful and interesting conversations that came out of that, where I suppose people are really engaged. They're opening up parts of themselves that perhaps they don't always talk about. And, it was lighthearted as well as heavy and sort of meaningful. I mean, when we talked about food culture, and you gave us permission for it to mean anything. And one thing that came to my mind was having a meat pie with my dad at the footy. My dad came to Australia as a migrant when he was 11. He didn't speak any English when he was sent to school on the first day wearing socks with suspenders, and people asked him if he was a boy or a girl, and he felt like he really didn't belong. But one of the first questions that people asked him was what footy team he went for. And when he realised that the answer should be Carlton, he started to find a sense of belonging. So for me and my dad, or for my dad and for me as he brought me up, going to the footy and enjoying a meat pie, that's a really important part of my food culture that I was happy to share with the room.
Yes. Yeah, it's I even though it was held during Asian Heritage Week, which it just so happened to be held during then, we we all have different cultures, and even if I identify my background is Malaysian and I say I'm Malaysian, my siblings and I all have different accents and we all have different cultural influences because growing up we were uh, at different we traveled a lot, and so we had different parts of our life influences in different degrees. I might go, let's say when I was younger, have friends who also identify as Malaysians, but we all have our different family cultures that affect how we see the world, how we, what we like. So yeah, I use the word culture very broadly because I know one Chinese person's not the same as another Chinese person. In fact, mainland Chinese, the diaspora Chinese, um, Chinese in Australia and Chinese in America are very different. So it was really good to just delve deeper than say, oh, I'm a Asian Australian, because everyone in that room had different influences.
Absolutely. So, Elaine, tell us, let's just go back a little bit and talk about yourself, the work that you do. How did you come to be doing this?
Well, I told the story on the evening how I, as a Malaysian girl, when I was 13, moved to Switzerland. And this was the first time I had ever been in Europe. And I was very out of place. I remember seeing all these ducks on the water, thinking, why are there ducks on the lake? Why are people not killing them and eating them for lunch? It was just a totally different worldview. And, but I had such difficulty connecting with my peers. And for almost 6 months, every lunchtime, I would be sitting by myself because I just couldn't connect with people. And one day, a boy, same age as me, I remember blue eye, brown hair, came and gestured to me because we couldn't really speak the same language. And he had a sandwich and gestured to me to join him and his friends and to sit together and have our lunches together. And we did that for several months, not much talking, just awkward smiles and just eating silently often. But I felt so grateful to his compassion, to his friends for just being hospitable and opening up that space for me. And since then, I just realized, wow, two things. I didn't want people to feel left out and friendless. And also, I realized the power of food to bring people together. So, fast forward, I've done a degree in law. I used to be a criminal lawyer and prosecutor, international aid work. I've done startups. And all throughout, I just felt this. Hunger to bring people together, and I'll do it through my different professions. But I managed to get a fellowship, a Rotary Peace Fellowship, that helped me pursue this desire to help people connect over conflict, through conflict. And yeah, I did my PhD looking at how food might be a role for peace building.
Well, a PhD there's obviously a lot to it and it takes years and much deep thought, but are you able to give us any sort of top line about your thesis?
Yeah, essentially, it's very simple and not anything that people would be going, wow, that's a new discovery. It's essentially food has the potential for peace and bringing people together, but it also has the potential for conflict. So, for example, we laugh about the pavlova. The pavlova is Australian. Oh, New Zealand. Or hummus. Where is hummus from? Oh, it's from Lebanon, Egypt. So there's all sorts of ways. It could be a superficial form of conflict, but it can also be quite deep because it's tied with identity. So I looked at how food, yes, it brings people together, but it also can cause conflict. So how do we move beyond that conflict to create deeper connection and engagement?
And do you feel that an event like Peace Kitchen, where people are gathering, with open hearts to ask each other questions and I guess create a sense of understanding? I mean, is that peace in action from your perspective?
It's an everyday form of peace. It's first level because I see food as a conduit for dialogue across difference. I would like to go deeper, and so we are going to test different formats, perhaps some, I guess, private events where we bring a smaller group of people to talk about particular issues in the world or conflicts, about the yes referendum, about events where we might have been in situations where conversations were heated, but yet there are people who want to understand better, want to ask the questions, but don't feel safe to ask them because you feel like you have to adopt a point of view or to defend a point of view. So I do want to create spaces where we can have those discussions. Peace is it's not just social and relational. There are many people in hospitality who look at sustainability, ethics. So I want to bring a strategic point of view where we can consult and help people think, how can we, through our processes, promote peace ecologically, relationally, between groups, think about it more creatively. So my event or the way we engage is just one level, and I wanted to show people that everyone can create peace, and this is a very simple platform, but there are other ways we can do that too.
I think something you touch on is complexity and the fact that people feel that they need to take a position, things need to be black or white, right or wrong. And I think food can actually have a really powerful role in showing how fun or good it can be to be wrong about things, to perhaps, I think about, we both know that I just wrote about a place called Terry's Kitchen, a Malaysian canteen that I discovered in Wantirna South in suburban Melbourne, and was delighted to learn that you had also been to Terry's Kitchen. So Terry's Kitchen is a canteen in a church in the suburbs. There's a strong Malaysian community that attends the church and the community facilities around it, including this canteen. Terry told me that he's cooked various cuisines in his decades-long career. He's cooked Italian, he's cooked tapas, he's cooked Japanese. But it's when he's been now cooking the food of his own heritage, which is Malaysian, he's never had so many people tell him he's getting it wrong because, Malaysians love, as do so many cultures, love to think that their auntie's way of making a certain dish is the correct way and that all other ways are wrong. But how wonderful to be wrong, and to experience new flavors and new ways of doing things. Do you think there is something in food that allows us to find, these different shades in a situation?
Oh, definitely. We talked about it at Peace Kitchen about authenticity. What is an authentic meal or pasta or curry laksa? And even in in Malaysia itself, there are regional laksas, and then there's laksas that your auntie made, your mother made. And the reason why we get so touchy about it sometimes is because it's tied to our own personal memories of when we were young and the meal that we had. And in my research, I say that's a special touch. We talk about the special signature touch of the chef, of the cook, and whatever that is, there's a history and the memory that's tied to the food that we cook. So I think it's very hard for a chef to satisfy everyone with the perfect curry laksa. But I think meals also show, in terms of the shades, that food is tied with complexity and paradox. And when we talk about black and white and whatnot, food shows that actually food is not static. It's not just the traditional things. Cuisine is it's always evolving and moving forward, but also tied with some aspects of the past. And so with conflict itself, when I help people transform conflict for good, I say, well, to be able to do that, we need to sit with paradox and complexity. Just having things in a binary view, which is a very modern enlightenment period of thinking, doesn't give us options. We need to learn to be a third side. We have to all learn to realize we can go beyond two binary views of issue, and it's the same as our dish. It doesn't have to be this way or that way. We can add on a little bit of extra cumin or tomato and then adapt it to taste. So I think that's the power of food, to have those powerful conversations.
Why do you think it is that people are so reaching for this one answer, this black or this white?
I think we feel safe with simplicity. Despite sometimes resisting rules, we like rules because it gives us a sense of safety. We know what to expect. If it's yes or no, okay, it's a 50-50 chance of getting it right, and we know what we need to do. So having simple stories help us make sense of the world. But then when you start going beyond those black and white, and getting to the gray, we feel uncomfortable with that uncertainty. I don't know. Are there 3 point of views, 4 point of views? That's just getting too postmodern. But then postmodernism of these multiplicity of views is not actually postmodernism. It's also pre-modern, because that is life. We have many views, many perspectives. Each person in your own family may have their own likes and dislikes. So what should we do today? What is the best thing to do do today as a family? So I think as a peace builder, I try and help people realize it's fine that uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it also has potential for creativity, innovation, progress, growth. And we have to sit with that despair sometimes, or that discomfort, so that we can move forward. But yes, I also do like that simplistic thing sometimes. Just give me two things to choose.
Where do you see the balance between putting differences aside and working through differences?
That's a simple sentence with lots of meaning behind it. I think differences is normal. We're all different because we are unique, and it's not so much to put differences aside, but to sit with those differences and see, yes, you are different from me, but we have something in common. We have a shared humanity. You are a mom of a community that's very different to me, but you're a mom. You know what it's like to see your child hurting. You know what it's like to struggle to make ends meet so that you can feed your children. There are common experiences, and at the end of the day, our differences sometimes may feel huge, but at the other times we realize it's not as huge as the common string that ties us together. So it's not to put those differences aside completely, sometimes to just sit with it, but to also be open to discovering that there is something in common.
Yeah, I think that's really, really powerful and can be challenging, and you can sort of understand that people will sit with it and then want to have a break from sitting with it, like where you just retreat to your comfort place or your comfort food. It's like, no, now I just want, now I really do want my auntie's laksa.
Yeah, exactly.
What were some of the things that I suppose surprised you or challenged you in your research, Elaine?
Well, I approached my research with a very firm view that I was going to just look at intercultural relations, because that's how I'm a cultural mediator. I translate sometimes English to English because people approach something with different cultural perspectives, and I use culture very broadly, not just in an ethnic way, but different sectors. And I approached it because I was used to using food between different people groups. And then I realized that that was a very kind of rigid way of looking at the potential of peace building through food. I realized, there's animal rights and veganism. That's a big issue, but why am I not looking at that? And then I looked at ethics, dialogue as a food as a way to dialogue with other people, food and politics over the COVID lockdown, how the Flemington apartments were in lockdown, and the government had distributed sausage rolls to a lot of the residents, and a lot of the residents are Muslim, and they don't know if is this halal or not. So I looked at, and in the end, my research became more exploratory than I expected, because I'm speaking to people in peace and conflict, saying, hey, food has the potential to touch different forms of conflicts, and so this is some of the ways that we might think of it, think of conflict differently.
Wow, I love that. I mean, I think in my work as a food writer or food journalist, I know that I'll never get sick of it, because it does cut across every aspect of society. Like, it is politics, it is environment, it is the economy, it is supply chains, it is soil, it is everything. Like, you can really look at food from any angle and find it a really fertile field to dig into. It sounds almost overwhelming, though, the way that your research just kept expanding.
Yes, I remember walking one day. My husband's like, "Why are you writing a chapter on animals? Your research is on food. Stop it! You need to finish your PhD."
So, Elaine, what do you do now day to day? Or is that the wrong question?
Well, basically, we're trying to look at different formats for Peace Kitchen. It's not just a public events. I do want to help organizations like museums or embassies or restaurants to look at how they might use their food spaces and the way they use food creatively, and think about having conflict strategies, not just risk management strategies. I'm also involved in school programs to help young people learn skills to approach conflict positively, and that's kind of also being incubated right now. It's kind of a startup phase in some sense, even though I've done school workshops for many years, but I'm trying to think of ways to do it more experientially. But yeah, consulting in some universities on peace programs. So it's like you, freelancing in different ways, but also consulting to different organizations.
I love that. And Elaine, we love to give people a takeaway on this podcast, perhaps some advice, something that they could apply to their own situation. So people might have, be hoping for peace in many types of situations in their own lives, whether it's with a coworker, with an employer or an employee, or with family, with people that they rub up against in daily life. Like, what are some strategies or perspectives that we could carry forward to try to move towards peace in our own lives?
Yes, well, there are many different types of conflicts. So I would say when I speak to community groups or Rotary groups, I say one very easy way is to think, how can I create more connection and less division? For example, on social media, we see it's so easy to be a troll, right? And to put whatever we want because there's very little accountability. Would you go around saying the same things you say online to your neighbors? Probably not. So to think, well, what impact am I having online, but also in my daily life? What am I saying to my kids or my workmates that are perhaps exacerbating tensions? Can I say it in a way that same substance, but in a way that encourages connection? So 2 words to keep in mind is more connection rather than more division.
Oh, I'll definitely carry that forward. Elaine, so good to talk to you. I cannot wait for my next experience with Peace Kitchen. There's 2 things I want to ask about to finish off. One is about Meals with Impact, which was the fundraising partner for the Peace Kitchen event. And finally, I want to ask you what you're looking forward to eating next.
Well, Meals with Impact, we would say, does a lot of systemic peace building, even though they might not use the term peace building. They're trying to do systemic change, helping women to find ways to, develop income streams and job prospects, but also dealing with food access and food insecurity. And they're based in Docklands, and it's a really beautiful space if you haven't checked it out yet. So we wanted to partner with them because we feel they are doing something that's systemic as well, which is what we want to do. But we do a small part and they do their part. And together, I feel if more of us do our own parts, but recognizing our role systemically, then I think we would achieve a lot of change.
Love that. So yeah, Meals with Impact is the social enterprise that we're talking about, and definitely worth supporting. They also do catering and it's great. So Elaine, what are you looking forward to eating?
Well, this is I have a family of foodies, and so we always talk about what we eat. And so today we're going to have a banh mi, the Vietnamese sandwich. We've got a really lovely place near our house. And so my son is not a morning person, but he woke up early so that we can actually go early for banh mi. So that's what we're going to have.
I love that. There is no wrong time of day for a great banh mi. Elaine, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And yeah, thank you for the work that you do. I'm really excited to see where it takes us all.
Thanks, Dani.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This